It's 3 a.m. and I can't sleep, and I also can't sing either. Hi! So I've been having trouble sleeping lately, for a number of reasons, really. But there was one night in particular that was really bad, but I don't regret it, really. Because, see, one night, I tried sleeping early, and I went to bed around, like, 11 p.m. Pretty early for someone like me who usually sleeps around, I don't know, 7 a.m. or something. And then, suddenly, I woke up at around 2 a.m., which sucks. My eyes are closed, but my brain won't shut down. Fuck it, I thought to myself. I opened up my TikTok, watched some brain rot for about an hour, and then I just got more into horror stuff just out of nowhere. In fact, I actively looked for horror content because, honestly, I just really like horror stuff. This is not a bit. This whole channel's legit. I do genuinely love spooky shit. I'm somewhat of a psychopath, you see. But I'm not kidding when I say scary stuff just brings me a lot of comfort. I don't know why. For one reason or another, I just like the feeling of being creeped out, especially when it's super late at night and it's incredibly dark in my house. Oh my god, there's like nothing bleeding out of the windows when it's like 3 a.m. It's super scary. It really enhances the feeling of getting spooked, though I might have taken it too far with this one because I found a channel on TikTok that took me down a huge rabbit hole of just non-stop scary Japanese mysteries till like 8 a.m. No fucking joke, I'm a wreck. My sleep schedule is dog shit, dude. But hey, I found some stuff that I've seen people rarely cover, and if they have covered it, it barely got any coverage. What the fuck am I saying? Why did I write that down? My point is, these sorts of cases are still not very well known, so I want to show you guys what I found, what I researched, and what's cool about them. Let's make it symbolic, and let's talk about 3 of my favorite cases. We got ghosts, urban legends, and true crime. Maybe, sorta, kinda, not really. So sit back, relax, enjoy some coffee, alcohol if you're spicy or having an episode, and just chill with me as I tell you all about this cool shit that I found. First, let's start with the most terrifying tale of them all. The horrifying tale of the stinky blanket. No, it's serious. Don't leave. It's scary. Trust me. Hold on. Okay? So over on the website Toucan, there was this story being told by one anonymous user about their strange encounter with a particularly odd old lady and a seemingly out-of-place smelly blanket. One night, at around midnight, this user had apparently a rank stench leaking into his room when he opened his window. It was so overwhelming that it had him curious as to where the source of the smell was coming from, so he decided, fuck it, I'm bored, I'll check it out, and tried finding the source of the smell. Not long after, though, he found this futon sitting atop a concrete fence. A mysterious liquid was also dripping out of it, and the smell was just 10 times worse, so much so that the OP couldn't even get close to it. This was the source of the smell, or rather, whatever was inside the futon was the source. With a stench that powerful, the OP assumed the worst. To him, it smelt like rotting meat and somewhat coppery. He figured he should have called the police so they could take care of it. But as he was taking a photo of this futon, an older lady came out of nowhere and started yelling at him, asking what he was doing and why he was taking a photo of the futon, claiming he was acting suspicious. The Toucan user explained that he could just smell this futon from his house and thought about reporting it to the police. Hearing that, the old lady just said, "Don't worry, I'm part of the neighborhood association. I'll throw it away myself." Not wanting to deal with the old lady harassing him, and to avoid suspicion, the user hesitantly walked away as soon as he got home. The entire situation just didn't settle well for him at all. Who was this old lady? Why was she acting so strange? Why was she so adamant that she could put away the futon herself, especially when he mentioned he'd call the police? When he looked outside from his house, he could see that woman was still there. The OP decided he'd head back out and check up on her, but to avoid suspicion, he grabbed his recyclables, whatever, in a bag and was planning to go out there just to place his garbage. It was a good excuse since the garbage people were actually going to collect the trash the next morning. However, when he got to the spot where the old lady and the futon were, surprisingly, both were gone. The only thing left behind was the stain where the futon once was, as well as a puddle of the mysterious liquid forming under the fence. Still, despite not being in the area, that stench still lingered, and according to OP, it just got worse. He figured the old lady was responsible for the futon being there, and maybe, after being called out, she hastily returned it back to her house or something. Something still didn't feel right though, so OP decided to walk around the neighborhood one more time just to see if there was anything else suspicious. And sure enough, there it was. The futon had now moved to a completely different location. Now, keep in mind, this was being posted in real time. OP was chronicling the entire story when it happened as it happened. So when he saw the futon on top of the blanket for the second time, he had disappeared for an hour, only to reappear and state that he was going to take a shower because he felt so dirty as the stench clung onto him. Several minutes later, he returned at around 3 a.m. to update everyone. The reason he was gone for an hour was because he had to call the police, and the officers that had arrived questioned him extensively. He wasn't able to give more information than that, however, as this incident had now turned into an ongoing investigation and advised anyone curious enough to, quote, keep an eye out for the news. So the story picks up a few weeks later, but before we get to that, I think it's important to know that people on 2Sam were skeptical from the beginning, asking why he didn't just call the police in the first place, regardless of the old lady telling him not to. Others were amused by the details, such as him claiming it smelled like rotting meat, or the fact that the futon left a mysterious liquid. It just all seemed kind of, I guess, to translate in a Western term, creepypasta-y. I say this because I'm honestly skeptical too. It's so very easy to fabricate a story on the internet and just lie to people, especially when you just have bits and pieces of evidence to show everyone, i.e. the picture of the futon, which, judging by the photo alone, just doesn't look all that suspicious. It's weird, sure, and obviously I can only take his word on it smelling bad, but it could also be that he just saw a blanket out there while he was on a walk in the middle of the night and fabricated the story as he went back home or when he got home. By the way, not to get off track here, but one of the guys in the 2chan post just straight up said, hey, you should take a picture of the old lady's panties. I figured someone might find that amusing. I did. It's also worth noting that he did say there was a mysterious liquid left behind too, but from this photo, you can't see that, and from either one, honestly. You'd think that's more of an important detail to take a photo of, but he couldn't due to the overwhelming stench, which honestly is a very convenient excuse. As the 2 weeks went by, nothing noteworthy happened on 2chan. There was no update, no news story, no nothing. But then, the OP came back and gave us an update. It turns out the very next day, OP had taken the day off from work as he was being questioned by the police about what had happened the night prior. He was shown several photos and was asked if any of the women he saw matched the woman he described to have seen the night prior. No, he said to the officer. That's when he brought out more photos, and this is when he saw a woman who looked almost like her. You gotta understand that it was really hard to see as it was dark outside and she was illuminated only by a dim street light. Regardless, the woman in the new photo looked like her. It's just that her makeup seemed sloppy, so it threw him off for a bit. The officers then questioned him further about her, how they met, if they related, if she's a friend, or if he's ever seen her before, etc, etc. After a long interview, the OP was then sent back home that evening and was given 6,000 yen as a reward for all the info he gave the authorities. A few days later, he was called back in and was asked to identify a woman as the person he saw the night before. This person was, in fact, the same woman who had told him that it was her futon and that she was part of the neighborhood association. Once he identified her, the police proceeded to take her away, and this is when she became violent and thrashed out, yelling at them and trying to fight them off. Eventually, she settled down, and she was able to be detained without any further interruptions. But this is when the details get really creepy. Shortly after this, the police officer informed him that she actually had a knife on her the night she was arrested, which was the same night OP had called the police. OP might have been killed if he had stayed near her that night, or if he had pestered her any further. As the police investigated further, her house actually had damning evidence against her, proving that she did, in fact, own that futon, and that whatever was inside was put in there by the old lady. After writing all of this, the OP stated that he hadn't eaten that day, so after he was done cooking for himself, he was going to revisit that spot and offer flowers. When pressed further about what was inside the futon, the OP simply stated, "You can tell from the flowers offered," seemingly confirming everyone's worst fear, that what was inside that blanket was likely a human corpse. And judging by the size of the blanket itself, it's likely to have been a child. That, or the body, was chopped up. Now, again, people are super skeptical about whether or not this was a true story, because there still wasn't any info on the news about this, even weeks after. And judging by the nature of this case, what with it being super graphic and extremely bizarre, you'd think this would have made headlines all over. But not only was there no news on this, there was also no info on where this took place, which could have helped narrow down what exactly happened here, but unfortunately, there is nothing at all. That is, of course, until 3 years later, where someone on 2chan decided to post a long, quote-unquote, fictitious story about a smelly futon they found while taking a walk in the middle of the night. It went into detail about the things that were left out from the original post, such as the interview with the cops, the days in between the interviews, and of course, what was inside the blanket itself, which, according to this poster, who had nothing to do with the original post, stated that there was a baby inside of the futon. Now, while this is a very horrifying detail, keep in mind, this is a quote-unquote fictional story, as in it was completely fabricated according to this person. So it could have been that this was just a random person making some sort of fictionalized creepypasta tale based on the original post from 3 years prior. Or, if you want to be more fantastical about it, it could have been the original poster disguising himself as someone else and slapping the whole fictional part as a way to mask himself. After all, it would have been illegal to have talked about this case, since apparently in Japan, information can be withheld from the public if the case being worked on by the police involved someone who was mentally unwell. Whatever the case may be though, whether or not there really was a stinky futon case, the answer ultimately lies with you, my dear, beautiful, gorgeous, and wonderful audience. You could either believe that this was a work of fiction the entire time, or it could be just a lost piece of media that never got covered by the news because of Japanese law. Whatever you want to believe is up to you. And hey, I hope you're doing okay, by the way. It's been rough, I get it. You got this, though. You'll pull through. Alright, well, let's pull back and bring up a lighter topic. You know, one that doesn't have dead babies. I mean, you know, there's like implied dead people in this one, but it's like a myth. So, you know, don't freak out too much. Oh, whatever. Anyways, let's talk about... Somewhere within Japan lies a forgotten village. Forgotten, but not abandoned. According to the legends, Inunaki Village was a small settlement located within the Fukuoka Prefecture and built sometime during the Edo period. It was founded by the members of the Inunaki clan who defied the emperor and decided to live isolated away from society and make their own laws and rules with blackjack and hookers. Unfortunately, it wasn't long until Inunaki was a village of anarchy and lawlessness, and due to traders and travelers fearing the sort of people that lived there, and the rumors that spread that the village was filled with murderers and thieves, Inunaki found itself, well, more stranded than it really wanted to be. Poverty and crime reigned, and without traders, there was no food, no goods, no supplies, nothing being distributed into the village. So naturally, the few remaining residents that stayed either desperately hunted nearby for any wildlife to feed on, died, or they resorted to cannibalism. You know, this is really stupid. I don't understand why they didn't just, like, leave. You know, it's like, if there's a point where, like, you have to eat people to survive, probably don't live there anymore. It's like living in Detroit.
Take him to Detroit. No! No, not Detroit! No! No, please!
Now, because of Inunnaki's isolation, many were never aware of this village existing after much time had passed. In fact, it didn't appear anywhere on modern maps, so this tiny village just sort of faded away into obscurity. That is, of course, until the construction of the Inunnaki Tunnel in 1949. Okay, so keep up, alright? This is kind of a little confusing, but just keep up. You're smart enough. I know you are. Check it. Unlike Inunnaki Village, Inunnaki Tunnel is real, and it does have a lot of disturbing things associated with it that are, again, real. See, sometime in 1975, Inunnaki Tunnel was closed down because of a tunnel that was constructed nearby, which is not called Inunnaki Tunnel, which it might be, but it's the former one. It just doesn't work. Nobody uses it. All right. The other one was just much more convenient for commuters. It was much faster, so nobody used the first one. And because of the lack of maintenance, the Inunnaki Tunnel became a dangerous place to travel through as it began to crumble within. Because of the fact that this tunnel was now essentially abandoned and sort of tucked away in this small little area that nobody could really see, it became the perfect place for some people to commit horrible crimes without any witnesses. For example, in 1988, 5 young men dragged a local construction worker into the tunnel and set him on fire, killing him within minutes. The reason for this? They just wanted to steal his car. Prior to this, there was also the real-life village of Inunnaki Dani, which is not Inunnaki Village, just something else, which was located within the Inunnaki Dam. But as soon as construction finished, in 1986, it was completely submerged in water during the dam's construction. While the villagers were moved to a nearby location by city officials, some believe there are those who refused to move out and stayed in their homes and drowned with their possessions as the village went underwater. And of course, infamously, the Inunnaki Bridge located near the tunnel is a popular spot for those who have, let's say, lost the will to live. These incidents gave the Inunnaki Pass the reputation of being cursed and possibly even haunted, added to the fact that supposedly in 1999 Nippon TV was told about the tale of Inunnaki Village. This then popularized the location, and as the years went on, online forums talked more and more about the supposed haunted location, and it turned into the modern day legend that it is today. And this is just scratching the surface. There's a lot of things that have happened here in this tunnel, and a lot of people just come around from all over just to visit this one tunnel. It's actually very popular. In fact, anime such as Mob Psycho and Dandadan have actually made this tunnel more popular in recent times, what with the parodies of the tunnels existing in those shows / manga. But more famously than that, there was a movie that came out in 2019 called Howling Village, aka Inunnaki Village. That became so popular that fans of the film actually have traveled to Inunnaki Tunnel so frequently that the city had to barricade the tunnel's entrance to prevent anyone from going in, which, in my opinion, made this place look really fucking cool and 10 times scarier. And while this spot truly does exist, it's debated if Inunnaki existed at all. Again, there's Inunnaki Dani, but that is a well-documented village that has nothing to do with the legends itself. Yet if you're curious enough to see this village, this myth, it's said that those who go through the Inunnaki Pass, the original one that is, are often transported to a different time period, a new place, and they hear villagers from this local town talking amongst each other as they cook up this mysterious meat. A rotten, pungent smell of flesh hangs over the air, and villagers are very likely to attack you the moment they spot you, as they don't welcome any outsiders. It's true. Well, okay, maybe it's not like true, but But it's true that people believe that. Unfortunately for most travelers, the tunnel is, like I said, sealed off, and that's kind of a good thing, especially when most people were just committing crimes in this tunnel. Added to the fact that the tunnel itself is just dangerous, and the very basis of it, it's like old and literally falling apart. Yeah, I don't think anybody should be going through this at all. This hasn't really stopped people, however, from going to the tunnel itself and exploring it at night, even if they just have to visit the outside area. They're still very fascinated by the legends and the supposed sightings that people have had in recent years. It's even said that this phone right here rings at around 3 a.m. every night, and you can just make out faint voices from the other end of the phone. Spooky. And that's what I love about this whole Inunaki urban legend. It's a mixture of both real life events and additive spooky flavors here and there, and it's like, yeah, there could be a village of cannibals that lives somewhere out here in an alternate dimension in the forest just beyond the tunnel. But there have been legitimate crimes also here. Bodies being found within this area. This cursed shit happening with the phone and the fucking bridge and the village. There's just this heavy air of woe hanging over this general area. I mean, God, really? This place is a veritable spring of misery and death, and man, fuck it, I think that's kind of sick. Look, I told you, I'm a psychopath. I'm sort of into this morbid stuff. This last one, I promise, is lighthearted. I swear. I just realized we're talking about death and decay in the last one. I wasn't really, I should probably think about the order in which these are coming up. But whatever. We talked about stinky blankets. We talked about cursed tunnels. I think the natural evolution would be to talk about ghosts. Staff Only is a miniseries that aired in the late 90s and the early hours of Japan. It's a TV drama that never really gathered any sort of notoriety or fame, just a humble little show that faded into obscurity, except for one particular episode, the episode that changed Staff Only's reputation forever. In this scene, the main protagonist runs away from the series' antagonist for whatever reason, I'm not really too sure, but it's during her little runaway scene that the camera captures something truly bizarre. Did you see that? Here, I'll play it again, this time zoomed in and closer to the general area. There. Right there, a face can be seen peeking into the room. A face that no one on set recognized. A face that, for all intents and purposes, shouldn't be there. An editor of Staff Only saw this little detail during the final hours of editing and pointed it out to his colleagues, wondering just what the hell it was. No one had any answers or ideas as to who that was or what that face was doing there. The editors then further questioned people on set, and lo and behold, no one had a clue as to what they were talking about. Some of the staff members even stated that they vividly remember no one being there when they entered that room shortly after the scene was shot. So what the fuck happened? To this day, it's currently unknown what this face could be, though tons of people have speculated, as people tend to do, and right now there are 3 prevalent theories. The first, of course, being that this face is, well, a ghost. From what was stated from the crew and channel itself, the warehouse owner of this set unfortunately passed away just 2 weeks prior to shooting, and people believe that this is in fact the man himself paying a visit to the film crew. Honestly though, as cool as that sounds, it's a little too convenient. Because this case is so old, we can only take the crew's word for it that this supposedly is the warehouse owner, and that is, in fact, his face. Sprinkle in the idea that some creepy thing happened, like him passing away just before this was shot, and, well, that's a perfect spooky story right there. But that sort of leads into the second theory of this being a manufactured hoax to try to make this series far more popular. Look, it's not unheard of that people fake ghost sightings or something similar in order to give a product more notoriety. One good example is from singer and songwriter Joyce Chu when she filmed the song I Miss You. In one part of the song, a person's body can be seen jumping off of the roof of a building. Now, it's worth noting before I get demonetized that this body is in fact added in post, meaning that this was added after this was shot, and we can prove that if we actually go to the Red House Theater, the location which this was shot. See that sign? See how he's going in front of it? Well, this sign is actually way farther away from the building. Not only that, but it's way smaller too. It was never confirmed that the music video was hoax, but extremely likely that it was. And for what reason? Fame, of course. Not that I'm saying Joyce Chu added this on her own, but someone within the production team definitely knew something like this would give the music video more attention than if it didn't. And currently, the video stands at 65 million views. And of course, if you examine the timeline of this video, that is the most popular part of the music video. It worked. Everybody knows about this music video because of the morbid details. So is that what happened with the production team of this show? Well, it's unlikely. While the show's popularity did end up surging after this was revealed, keep in mind that this wasn't the scene that was ultimately broadcasted. This was. Yes, that's right. What everyone saw when this episode first aired was a version of the show that didn't even have the face in the first place. Added to that, this whole ghost ordeal wasn't even revealed until later on after the show had finished airing, like years later. So if this really was for fame, well, it's a little too late to be expecting a reboot just because of one shot that had a ghost in it, don't you think? Regardless, if it's not a ghost and it's not a hoax, then what is it? Well, this is usually when people resort to this bitchin' little principle called Occam's razor. The simplest explanation is likely the correct one, and what likely happened was that this is, in fact, someone on the crew that everyone just kind of forgot, or perhaps it was a reflection of theirs. In these sorts of productions, crew sizes vary. Not everyone is well interacted with, not everyone knows everyone else. Therefore, this person right here is likely someone that just isn't seen very much, or wasn't seen or noticed that day. Maybe someone in the camera crew, maybe the lighting, maybe makeup, custodian even. There's all sorts of faces that just sort of show up for a few times during productions, maybe even for just an hour or so. Point is, not everyone is going to recognize them, and though someone should have seen him in that short period of filming, mistakes were made, and this just sort of slipped through. However, even this theory of it being the crew itself is kind of hard to believe, because the crew themselves gave a sort of detailed diagram as to where everyone should have been, and in this one shot, the actress is running through this door, and the camera is pointing directly to her. Everyone else should have been standing around these two boxes, and in that one empty room, there should have been pretty much no one there at all. In fact, that one room doesn't even have a mirror or anything reflective at all. So what they saw shouldn't be there. Whoever was there was instructed clearly not to be there. This testimony, of course, isn't super solid. I mean, just because they said that people weren't there or shouldn't be there doesn't mean that people can't be there. There is definitely a room there, and it's not impossible that someone's face might have leaked through. It's just that nobody knows who exactly it was that should have been there or could have been there, for what reason they should be there. But who knows? Maybe, just maybe, this could have been evidence of a ghostly apparition. And if that's the case, then this is the scariest ghost video I've ever seen. Not only is the face so very clear here, clearer than anything I've ever seen in any piece of ghost evidence, it is undeniably a face. Sometimes you can argue it's a case of pareidolia, you know, seeing faces where there isn't one, but the fact that this face and head turn to see the actress running past means that it's sentient and watching. It has awareness and it knows what it's looking at. That to me is more haunting than anything. That this thing is actively watching you and it's aware of you, all of you, but you're not aware of it. That just about covers most of the stuff that I wanted to cover. Well, that's not actually, no, that's not true. There's a ton that I wanted to cover for you, but they're either very common cases or some of them are more true crimey, and I know you guys don't really like that. Which, by the way, I did make a longer video on one of the cases that I saw. If you want to check that out, you can click on the link below or click on the top right here. You can go check that out. But there are a few more that I wanted to cover. Like Kisaragi Station was one of them, but I figured that most of you probably heard it. But maybe if you guys like this video, I'll cover it in the future, and other Japanese stuff, which I kind of want to do regardless. So look out for that. I love you guys a ton. I'll see you guys next time. Check out my Patreon, all that good stuff. Love y'all. I'll see you later. Good night.